Welcome to episode number 15 of Colorado TechCast.
So we started a social venture called PocketChange. We're trying to help people support causes on social media in a whole new ways. It's a button that's going to sit on Facebook right next to the like, comment, and share, and it'll light up whenever you see a post about a cause. This could be literally anything. It could be an article from the New York Times about poverty. It could be a video about climate change. It could be a slam poem about racism. Whatever it is, our technology analyzes that post, that content. It determines what specific cause that post is talking about. It instantly matches that cause, thousands and thousands of charities for every cause, and find the one that we believe is most impactful at actually tackling the problem systemically and actually making progress towards fixing it. So it's a way of kind of targeting the moment when someone is genuinely inspired to act through your friends talking and conversation and real human stories, and targeting that action and removing all the barriers for actually doing something.
Before we get started, I want to talk about something really cool coming up. On Thursday, March 15th, between 5 and 8:30 p.m., the Colorado Technology Association is hosting the 12th annual C-Level at Mile High. C-Level at Mile High is CTA's largest fundraiser of the year, packed with C-Level celebrity auctions, silent auctions, and the debut of the Tech Exchange to help CTA carry out its mission of fueling Colorado's economy through technology. It's the perfect opportunity to build relationships with peers, win business, and be introduced to tech companies and influential IT leaders in a setting really unlike anywhere else in Colorado. Check it out at clevelmilehigh.org. That's the letter C, levelmilehigh.org. I hope to see you out there. Now, let's get started. Today I'm speaking with Reyn Aubrey. Reyn is the CEO and founder of PocketChange. Reyn, how are you doing today?
Really good. Thanks so much for having me, Trapper.
Great. So Reyn, I know when we were talking before, you were giving me the background of your story. Why don't you share that with our listeners?
Sure. So I grew up in a little town called Mililani in Hawaii. Born and raised there. It is not the most entrepreneurial place. It's one of the most isolated land masses in the world, so not great for connectivity. But I always was kind of really into entrepreneurship and kind of that scene, even from a really, really young age. I would say, I got into business, I guess technically when I was about 5 or 6. I started a lemonade stand and dressed up as the Flash and ran around my local pool selling lemonade and hired my friends to actually make the lemonade and sit at the stand, and I was kind of the front of it. That was really, really fun. I never even knew that entrepreneur was something that you could be when you grew up. I never really knew how to answer that question. I would always say something like samurai or astronaut or something like that. But I'd always been really into leadership and organizing groups of people to do and accomplish cool things. And I launched I tried to launch a whole bunch of things, throughout elementary, from dance classes where I charged a nickel to teach people how to break dance, to in 7th grade, looking at trading currency, to all kinds of fun stuff. But the first real business that I launched was in 8th grade. I had I had 8 giant tubs of Lego. I'm a really big Lego nut, or I was when I was a kid. I made movies with them and everything, and I loved them, but I had stopped playing with them. So I decided I was going to try and sell it, and I went online, did a whole bunch of really cool market research, and found out that there was a real gap in, where people were selling things. So in terms of understanding the consumer, people were packaging things up not in the ways that kids wanted to receive them. So I kind of filled that and did that and sold through all 8 tubs of Legos in a month or two. And then ended up having to, start trying to source Lego from other places, garage sales and friends and buying and all of that kind of stuff, and then packaging them up and then marketing and selling and all of that kind of thing. And I did that, and then when that ended, I hopped over and I started kind of my first socially conscious venture. My friend had showed me these really cool bracelets that he had made out of soda pop tabs. Basically, if you take them off and you weave them together, they make these really beautiful bracelets. And so I did that. I made a whole bunch of those, and I sold out 40 or 50 at my homecoming football game in an hour. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. And started making them more, hired a whole bunch of my friends to make them for me, and, did craft fairs and online and had a website and got interviewed and all of that kind of thing. Ended up being voted like one of the top 5 products in Hawaii that year. And then we also donated a portion of that money to recycling charities. And so that was like a really, really fun venture for me. And then I did a whole bunch of other things. I had a reselling business where I would buy things off Craigslist and eBay and garage sales and resell them online, and did pretty well with that. But that was solo. I wanted to test my hand at like doing something like really by myself, and I didn't really like that. It was a lot of like me just figuring things out and sitting in my room on my computer, and that was a lot less fun for me. So then my kind of last business, all while in Hawaii, I launched these 4 in high school, was a hoverboard company. I found that a lot of social media influencers were riding around on these 2-wheel, like self-balancing hoverboard things. And no one I knew, no one I'd heard of actually had these things, especially not in Hawaii. So I went online and I started looking around, shopping around, found that there was about 40 manufacturers making these hoverboards, all different qualities and makes and that kind of thing. And started doing a whole bunch of research and got a friend of mine who spoke Chinese to help me with it and help with negotiations and everything, and set up all quality control standards, and then made my first purchase. I bought one for myself, and then I liked it, and so I bought 3 more. I'd invested, about like $1,000, and sold those 3 and bought 6, and then realized that I could really get my costs down if I started making bigger purchases. So pre-sold a whole bunch and bought a whole bunch, and then kind of rolled from there. And in the span of about 3 months, went to selling about, I would say, probably 100 or 200 hoverboards a week, or every 2 weeks. We were bringing in, truckloads of hoverboards, and became the #1 hoverboard seller in Hawaii. Got a whole bunch of press attention in Hawaii, and then also a little bit nationally, selling, all over the U.S. and all over Hawaii. And so that was really, really fun. But I had a very, very distinct moment. This was in my senior year of high school, where I was sitting in my room. It was right, like maybe 2 days before Christmas. I love Christmas. Christmas is my all-time favorite holiday. And I've been, just working my face off during the holiday season because, that's the time to sell hoverboards. And I was sitting in my room, and I had just sold a whole bunch of hoverboards in cash, and I was counting all of this money, more money than I'd ever had in my life. And I was sitting there, and I was counting all this to put it into the bank. And I realized that if I was going to do business for the rest of my life, because I knew that I loved business, I love everything about business, the challenge and the overcoming and working with people and, pushing yourself and all of that kind of stuff, I really, really loved. But I realized that if I was going to operate in the business world, I had to find some other motivation than money. Because what I realized as soon as I had like more money than I'd had before, it was kind of like, oh, damn, this is it. Like, all I can do with this money is buy things that I don't really want that will make me happy for like a second, and then that's it. And it was like a really, really powerful realization for me that I was like, business 101, the first thing they teach you when they walk into a business class is a business's purpose is to make profit for the shareholders. And I was like, well, that's boring. Like, that's so boring. And so I decided that the next business I was going to run was going to be a social venture company. And so I decided that. The hoverboard company kind of ended, and I was like, okay, now I have to figure out college. And so through a really weird series of events, I'd been working at like a venture capital company out in Hawaii, a venture accelerator called Blue Startups. And one of my fellow interns there, he had been talking to a startup reporter earlier that day. And she was telling him all about how incredible the entrepreneurship and startup scene was in Denver. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, maybe Denver's worth applying. But I'd been really, really focused on just New York and California. I was like, I'm going to the East Coast or the West Coast, nothing in between. But when he told me about Denver, I was like, okay, I'll throw it on my list of applications. I waited until like the week before applications were due to start my application. So I was like, okay, I'll throw it on there. Worst comes to worst, at least I'll have applied. I literally Googled schools in Denver, business schools in Denver, found the ones that met my financial need requirement. That was DU, and applied and got in. They gave me an amazing scholarship package. And then I came here and started really doing all of my research about the city and the place and everything, and realized how truly incredible Denver is as a startup and as a business community. The coolest thing about what's going on here is that we're really kind of in the early stages of something incredible. San Francisco and New York, those places are already incredibly built up. And it's a really, really big ecosystem. But here, we're just starting. And we have everything in place to make something really spectacular. Plus, not only are all the businesses here and not only is there technology here, but people here really understand the value of having a lifestyle outside of sitting in your office working. We work really, really hard here, but in our downtime, rather than just watching TV, we go ski a double black diamond. And that was the coolest thing for me. It was really the spirit of we just jump in and tackle whatever we want. And we really just go at it. And that, I think, is super present in all of Colorado, but especially in Denver. Mm-hmm. If you walk around the city and you talk to people, no matter who they are, the highest level executive, a barista, whoever it is, they're really, really nice. And they have an energy about them and a vibrance about them that is super, super unique. Now, the other thing about the entrepreneurship community in Denver, and I'm obviously a huge fan of it, is the social entrepreneurship scene in Colorado is, I would say, unparalleled. My personal belief is that we have solved a lot of the hard problems, things like transportation and communication and all of these things that make the lives for people who, by the rest of the world's standards, are incredibly rich and well off, even if we consider that middle class. We've solved a lot of their problems. Pretty much most of my daily struggle is solved. Sure, there's a couple things that, I could optimize, but at the end of the day, a lot of the problems that need to be solved have already been solved. So I think that the real opportunity is, okay, where are there other really big problems? So I can sit in my room and I can order food and I can, call an Uber to take me downtown and I can talk to all my friends all across the world. And then there's someone on the other side of the world who literally doesn't have access to clean water, who literally doesn't know where their next meal is going to come from, where there is no, political accountability, no political transparency, struggling with poverty. The, climate change is rapidly increasing, and we're seeing the effects of that all around the world. And those are huge, major problems. And if I know one thing about entrepreneurship, it's that entrepreneurs solve problems. That's the beginning of every pitch slide, is what problem are you solving? And so I think that these huge, huge problems that everyone in the world faces are going to be our world's biggest opportunities. And so I think social ventures just make sense. I think it's just the way that business is going to go, because there's not going to be a supply of other problems to solve. And so I think that the social entrepreneurship scene in Denver and in Colorado is really spectacular. And that's one of the biggest reasons I would say to come here.
So it sounds like you've been entrepreneurial from the get-go. Mm-hmm. What has been your inspiration for that?
Mm-hmm. I think it has to come down to my parents. I got really, really birth lucky. My dad has been an entrepreneur his entire life. He currently has his own business, a pool contracting business out in Hawaii. And my mom has always been a freelance writer and artist. She's an international best-selling author. So I have two parents that never really believed in the 9-to-5 and proved to me that if you want to go do something, you can just go out and do it. There isn't a rule book you have to follow, and there isn't really a path that makes sense anymore. And so I think I got really, really lucky. They definitely inspired me to think about other things. In my family, the biggest thing was always to do what makes you happy and to do what you love every day, and to question and think critically about pretty much everything, and to have a lot of fun doing whatever you do in the process. That was always the biggest thing. They always encouraged me that whatever I wanted to do, I could do. They gave me a lot of self-confidence and belief in myself, and helped me kind of understand that, I didn't necessarily have to do the traditional path, because I knew that they would support me and they would love me regardless of what I did. And that, I think, was really, really spectacular. And that's kind of what brought me to it. Now, I think innately I'm also kind of born to be an entrepreneur. Like most 5-year-olds aren't like hiring their friends and running around pools like selling lemonade. And I don't think that necessarily all comes from my parents, but I think my parents played the single biggest role in doing that. Plus, the first place that I read the word entrepreneur and heard about the word entrepreneur was a book my mom bought me in 8th grade, right when the Lego business was starting, called Start It Up. And that was kind of like my first real introduction to the business world. So I would say my parents were definitely my biggest inspiration. And I have a ton of role models and mentors and people that inspire me, but it all comes down to my parents.
That's great. Yeah, I think having that strong foundation, that support from the get-go can really make or break an early stage entrepreneur. Now you're a student at DU. What are you working on right now?
Sure. So we started a social venture called PocketChange. Basically, we're trying to help people support causes on social media in a whole new way, support any cause that they care about. So what we're creating is it's a button that's going to sit on Facebook right next to the like, comment, and share. And it'll light up whenever you see a post about a cause. So this could be literally anything. It could be an article from the New York Times about poverty. It could be a picture that your aunt posted about her house that was destroyed in a hurricane. It could be a video about climate change. It could be a slam poem about racism, whatever it is. Our technology analyzes that post, that content. It determines what specific cause that post is talking about. Then it instantly matches that cause with the single most impactful charity tackling that problem. So, we have a team of researchers, we call them charity sleuths, that basically go in, we've built out this process, and they analyze thousands and thousands of charities for every cause and find the one that we believe is most impactful at actually tackling the problem systemically and actually making progress towards fixing it, to solving it. And so they click the button, it analyzes and determines the cause, matches it with the charity, and then instantly in 2 clicks, you can microdonate 25 cents to $2 to that organization. So it's a way of kind of targeting the moment when someone is genuinely inspired to act through, your friends talking and conversation and real human stories, and targeting that action and removing all the barriers for actually doing something.
That's really cool. So is this a browser add-on that sits on top of Facebook, or how does the button appear?
Yep. So we're launching this month in February. It is a browser add-on, and we did that really, really intentionally. A browser add-on will allow us not only to integrate very easily over Facebook, but also to go cross-platform quickly. So the really cool thing about what we're doing with PocketChange is that once we've finished this technology, which we're almost there on, we can apply that technology across anywhere that someone is inspired. And they don't have to update, they don't have to download something else, they don't have to accept anything. It's already, once you download it on Facebook, you can instantly add it on Twitter, onto the New York Times, onto your email, onto messaging, onto Google Results, onto Netflix, onto Spotify, onto anywhere that you see content that you want to take action on. The goal is to remove that passive way that we're viewing content, that we're consuming content, and to make people understand how actually you can do something when you see something that makes you want to act. And so we are a browser extension, and we're also looking at natively applying our technology to mobile apps and that kind of thing, but that's kind of the secondary step in our process.
So what were some of the technical hurdles you came across? I know that micropayments have been something that people have been working on for several years. You've got the native transaction cost to send money between here and there. Mm-hmm. At 25 cents a click, how efficiently can you get that money to the charity?
Sure. Pretty efficiently. PayPal's got an awesome micropayment fee structure now. It's still not absolutely ideal, but it's close enough where it'll allow us to operate. So PayPal takes about 10% of the transaction, and we're working on getting that down by building out a user management system that makes bulk transactions. And so we're figuring all of that out, but I'm not the technical person. I'm a complete technotard, but I am the people person. And so I, have found some really, really incredible people to be a part of our team. So probably the most difficult technical hurdle, which as of last week we have solved, is our natural language processing technology. So that is the tech that allows you to be scrolling through and see anything and have it accurately determine which cause that is. So we're up to about 85% accuracy across any post, across any cause. And that was a really, really challenging technical hurdle that we fought a long, long time to get to where we are today. But that was one of the trickiest ones.
So you're a sophomore in college with full course load with this side startup that's, I'm sure, is consuming all of your time and energies outside of class. How did you go about recruiting your team to backfill the technical needs that you had?
Sure. So it was really all about being legit in who I was and who the company was before I even started talking to anybody else. So kind of figuring out the direction that the company needed to go, and really, really setting that. I have a mentor named Drew, who has given me an incredible piece of advice that a CEO's only job is to set and hold the vision of the company. And so I think that was kind of the first thing I did. And then it's a really, really exciting idea. When you really start to dig into it and to get deep with it and think about it, the potential for this thing is truly awesome in the actual definition of the word. It's really, really, really exciting. And I think people now more and more are wanting to work on something that matters, and something that has potential. And so that was the biggest thing. And then in talking to people, letting them to kind of discover what PocketChange was and the potential of it on their own, which really helps increase buy-in. So not just slapping them over the head with how cool this thing is, but letting them realize it on their own. And then that you get kind of a moment where their eyes get, dinner plate size and they go, oh my God, like this thing could really, really change everything. And that's what really creates a buy-in. So it was... Because the other thing is we're not a funded startup. I haven't actively gone out and, pursued funding. It's like we've had, people say, when you're ready, like let us know. And a lot of people are really, really excited about it. But I wanted to make sure that we bootstrapped as far as possible, as long as possible, before we started doing that. So everyone on the team is unpaid, and is equity-based. And like the vast majority of our team, charity slews, people who are doing the research. We've got a team of 22 awesome people. Everyone except the founding four are unpaid and no equity. So it's people that really just believe in the vision and this company more than anything else, and are willing to put their own time, commit their own time towards actually taking action on that.
That's great. It sounds like you sold people on the emotional connection between what you're doing and how it impacts the world. I've seen a lot of your posts on social media, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, going to different pitch events. Now, when you're pitching a potential investor, do you have the same sort of strategy?
It depends. So I think that, like, for me, I'll share my personal style. Some people this doesn't resonate with. Like, some people really have to pitch like a different way, and that makes total sense. Like, we're all different. But the way I've done it, and we've won like 9 or 10 different pitch competitions now and gotten like money from all of those kinds of things. But the way that I kind of do it is, at the end of the day, whoever's judging, or potential investors or any of that, they're all people. So you have to kind of start off with a story that makes people interested or engaged. So you have to kind of target the emotional side of things. But then you can't just stay there. You can't just stay in the big picture. You have to get to the nitty-gritty and show people that you've actually figured out a lot of the details. So you start with the emotion, and then we really start talking about the market and where things are going, are the bets that we're taking on the market and the evidence that we have for those bets. And then we get into kind of a little bit of the technical. We don't get super technical, but we get into the nitty gritty of like how we make money, and what our team looks like and what technology we have, and answering questions investors have to make it a little bit less scary. Showing that we very well know our competition, and all of that kind of thing. And then kind of ending on helping people really see the vision of where this thing is going and how it can be applied. If you think about action, if you think about, how many likes happen a day, how many shares happen a day, how many comments happen a day across all platforms, it's kind of mind-boggling how much people actually want to do something, but there's no technology out there to facilitate all of that. And so that's what we're building. And we want to make sure that investors walk away with, a belief in what we're doing, an understanding of our business, and a trust in who's working on it. I think those are kind of the three main components. In my opinion, most investors bet on the jockey rather than the horse. They care about who's running it, who's the team that's making it happen. It's definitely not me. I'm just one tiny little piece of it. The real bulk of things are carried by the rest of our team. And so we want to make sure that investors feel confident in all of that. And then also, understand how everything works and where this thing is going. At the end of the day, a pitch should not be an information session. A pitch should be the very first thing that gets you a coffee. That's all you're trying to do. The pitch just excites people, and you have to kind kind of make sure that that is the end goal. I've seen a ton of pitches where people get really into explaining things and projecting things and all of that kind of stuff. And that makes most people's eyes glaze over. You have to target the emotions and target, where things are going, and then also back up those, big, bold claims, and not bore people. And then in terms of presentation, it's all about comfort and confidence. Like confidence is like everything when it comes down to, anything from dating to taking a test to pitching to whatever it is. And the trick with confidence is I'm not a confident guy. I'm a very self-conscious person. I have a ton of personal barriers that I have to get over all the time. But the feedback that I get from people is that, wow, you look so confident up there and like ready to go. And the kind of thing that I would explain that with is I would kind of make an analogy to like a rapper. If you've ever seen a rap show or watched, like NWA or Eminem or something like that, when they're right about to go up on stage, they have this energy about them that's like, I'm going to absolutely destroy this. I'm going to crush this. A rap show is not that exciting. It's someone, up on stage saying a whole bunch of words quickly to music. It's not that visually engaging, or there's no band, or there's no drummers or anything like that, but it's all in the energy that person comes with. So like before every pitch competition, I have a hype playlist that like I put on. I view it as a game day. I'm suiting up to go out there and, fourth quarter, 2 minutes left. And so I really, really think that, you could have the best slide deck in the world, and you could, have like a great business idea. But if you go up there and you don't show that you are super legit in who you are, and you don't exude confidence, and you don't prove to people that, you're going to take this to the end, whether they get on board or not, you're going to kind of fall short. And so I think that's one of the big things, is kind of a comfort and a belief, like a knowledge that you're going to absolutely destroy this pitch competition, and there's going to be nothing left when you leave, kind of thing.
Really psych yourself up for it, right?
Yep.
So what's on your playlist? Can you share a few songs?
Yeah, sure. So there's a great one that's called Dangerous by Royal Deluxe. That's awesome. I love songs from Magnificent Seven. It's like a cowboy movie, shoot 'em up, awesome movie. It's got like a lot of like a doom, 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 doo, 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 doo. It's awesome. And then another classic is Lose Yourself by Eminem. Love that song. Absolutely incredible song. And then I also really like Grew Up at Midnight by the Maccabees. It depends on what type of pitch I'm doing. If I'm doing like I want to crush this pitch competition, I won't play that song. But if I'm like doing like a speech or something where I have to be, kind of like I'm trying to channel like an inspiring person, I'll play Grew Up at Midnight by the Maccabees, and that kind of gets me in the right headspace.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
So quick side note, one of the first startups that I was working on was 15 years ago, maybe longer than that. And I would put Lose Yourself on constantly, a loop. It's definitely a classic song that's stuck around.
It's a great one. It's an absolutely great one.
So a lot of athletes, in addition to, as you mentioned, rappers, psych themselves up before a game, and they do a lot of visualization, visualizing themselves pitching, being successful, making the shot, whatever. Do you have any visualization routines that you run through before giving a pitch?
Yes, sort of. So like obviously I will have practiced my pitch a million times. I know exactly what I'm doing when I get up there. The biggest thing that I actually visualize is not necessarily me, but I kind of imagine it, imagine myself in those shoes. There's a scene in the movie Steve Jobs, great movie, one of my favorites. It's the last scene of the movie, and he walks out and he's about to introduce the new computer that's going to take Apple from like kind of a failing company to something great. And he walks out, and Grew Up at Midnight is playing, and there's like this scene where he like slowly walks out and everyone's like cheering, and he like turns and he looks at the camera, and it fades out. And so that's kind of the thing that I visualize is like the very end of the pitch, my closing line, and having people just kind of be like, damn, wow, that's what I visualize. So it's not necessarily like up there killing the pitch or anything. It's that ending. And then sometimes I'll, like really, really think through like answers that I want to have or points that I want to make, and like think about me like explaining that like as if I'm someone in the audience like watching that. What would I want to see? How would I want to be perceived? And then I visualize all of that. But I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to that mindset of putting yourself in, I'm going to totally crush this.
So these pitch events, are they for real money or are they just like a practice round?
Done both. Both are super valuable. I think that you should pitch as much as makes sense. I don't think you should pitch constantly because then you're not doing any work on the business. But I also don't think you should never pitch because you get to meet cool people and get awesome feedback. So I've pitched probably like 7 or 8 of the pitch competitions have been for money, and then like a couple other places I've pitched haven't. So like we've pitched with Denver Startup Week, and we've pitched with UPS. We won the most innovative pitch at UPS national pitch competition. Pitched at like DU's annual pitch competition and an impact competition. All of them for money. And then we've also pitched at like the alumni weekend here at the university, or like pitchers and pitches at Galvanize, or that kind of thing. Things that aren't for money, but are just an opportunity to get it out there. Usually at this point, I don't really like pitching if there isn't something that I like can really get out of it. So like if there isn't like a perfect network or something that I want to see this idea, or that I want to be able to talk to after, I usually don't pitch it anymore unless that's there or there's like some kind of financial interest, just because like, in my opinion, I think that a lot of advice that people give is like, it's really good advice, and there's a ton of different perspectives on how you should do things. But at the end of the day, you're going to find 2 experts that totally disagree and take opposite sides on any decision you make. It's very easy to find that. And so I think like it's worth listening to everyone, but you have to be willing to kind of ignore all of it and just do you, and do what you believe in. And so I think pitching is good, but just to be very conscious that just because someone is, very well titled and very intelligent and has the best of intentions doesn't necessarily mean that they're right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys live and have been like alpha or beta testing this, or is the big bang yet to come?
The big bang is yet to come. We launched a beta test over the summer and raised a whole bunch of donations, tested a whole bunch of our assumptions, and that was good. But my whole like philosophy is I'm not a huge believer in the rapid iteration and pivoting kind of mentality. I think that's great if you want to build a business and exit for $10 million and make your investors happy. I think it makes way more sense to do that than kind of the way I'm doing it. But what I'm trying to do, and not even what I'm trying to do, what PocketChange is trying to do is build something that is really going to change how people interact with things. It's really going to shift, trust in, how people donate and how people support and all of that. And I think in order to get people to really, really trust you, and to set yourself up for the best chance at hitting that totally smash hit out of the park, it makes more sense to build something that's really, really good rather than launching something that you're not proud of and then constantly iterating on top of it. So we launched a beta over the summer. We tested it. We got some good feedback. But we've spent the last 6 or 7 months, probably about 6 months, totally reworking the product from the ground up, building out, a team of charity selection people that are selecting. We're going to be launching with 200 to 300 different charities and causes enabled through our platform, 2-click transactions, 85% accuracy on natural language processing. Like there was a ton of shortcuts that we could have taken to just launch something quicker, but we've been really, really intentional about building something great before putting it out into the world.
I think that's smart. Just kind of shore up your code base before you go live, especially anything financially related. I mean, there's so many opportunities for things to go wrong. As cryptocurrency has taken off, there have been a lot of fairly well-known breaches that have really messed, the whole cryptocurrency economy up because somebody's code base wasn't configured well enough and somebody was able to siphon profits off of that. So I definitely think you guys are taking the right approach there to making sure the product's solid before you go to market.
Here's an interesting note on that really, really quickly. You're a very smart person. I really, really respect you. This is a perfect example of listening to everyone and not be willing to ignore all perspectives, because you have this perspective and I totally agree with you. Like we're totally aligned in that. But I've also had really smart people say, no, this is the dumbest thing in the world. You should just launch like with whatever you have and get it out into the market. And so I think both those perspectives are two diametrically opposed, ways of looking at this. So it's worth hearing both things, learning what you can, and then doing whatever you're going to do.
And to your earlier point, it's the job of the CEO to hear all the different perspectives and weigh them and then determine the path forward.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these social movements go viral very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any growth strategies that you can share with us, like how you guys are planning on getting the browser add-on out there and known to the market?
Sure. So our big way of doing things is that people want to, especially with change, people want something to follow. So we have to have like a very clear path set up for people to get involved. One way that we're doing that is spending a lot of time on influencer outreach. Influencer marketing is not something new. It's not some crazy innovative idea. But in this business, it makes a lot more sense to do that. Because if a blog that you read or a podcast that you listen to or whatever it is touting how amazing PocketChange is and talking about it, all of the followers of that are like, okay, my leader, Trapper, is really about this whole PocketChange thing. I'm going to hop in and follow that. And it's easy to do that. To be the first one is always a lot harder. So we're spending a lot of our time, building out influencer marketing, lists and that kind of thing to really be promoting it through social groups rather than kind of one-on-one things. And then the other thing is, the content, the whole belief that we have at PocketChange and that we verified is that people see things online and it makes them want to do something. So we have to produce content that makes them want to have the PocketChange button. It's very easy to get someone to download something if they want to download it. That sounds really, really dumb and obvious, but if you can make content that makes people notice oh crap, if only I had PocketChange right now, that'd be awesome. And then have a link right there that makes it ridiculously easy to get PocketChange, then you're on the right path. So it's that. So it's influencers, it's producing content that makes people want to take action. And then also we're looking at some kind of referral program things. We haven't totally figured all of that out yet, the referral program side. But the other two we're going super heavy on.
As you were talking about your plans for marketing and talking about influencers, made me think of the book Smart Cuts by Shane Snow. I don't know if you've read it or not. It's a really great book. And I think you touched on a couple of the points that he brings up in the book. One is ride the waves. So if you see a shift in society's thinking as a whole, be the first to ride that wave and kind of leverage that. And also another tactic that he talks about is hacking the ladder. So you mentioned finding influencers. So rather than just going out and word of mouth through your own network, getting people familiar with PocketChange and kind of evangelizing that, finding those key influencers who have much larger networks and have much stronger leverage when it comes to connecting with people and getting the idea out there. So I think those are both really good examples that you're demonstrating through your efforts here.
I agree. And the other thing on influencer marketing, I think a lot of people, when I say influencer, think of someone with 500,000 Instagram followers. I would totally disagree. I think that deep following is a lot more important than breadth of following. And so I think that a mom who is, president of the Parent-Teacher Association for her local school and has, 100 likes on every Facebook post because everyone loves what she is doing is a far better influencer than someone who is just hot on Instagram.
Yeah, finding people that have true followers and not just Kim Kardashian level followers, but people who real industry leaders and can tap into people who can make big things happen. I think that's important. So what does the future of PocketChange look like? Are you guys looking to keep this as a Denver-based startup, or are you looking to, I know it's off in the distance, but is there a larger organization that you could see acquiring you guys, or what's your thinking in terms of growth plans?
So, I think it really comes down to what will help us maximize our impact the most. So we've talked about, a Facebook acquisition or something like that, but didn't really resonate with that because then we would be purely a Facebook button. And that's not the goal of what we're doing. The really cool thing about it is how cross-platform we are. So there is definitely possibility, someone like a Google potentially could acquire us, or a big foundation even, or something along those lines. But it's all really comes down to how can we better maximize our impact. We do want to stay as a Denver-based startup. I have no intention of being like, once we hit 1 million donations, we're going to move to New York. Like, I think Denver is the New York of social venture. I don't think that there's anywhere better, arguably in the world, to have a social venture. And to have a group of people working on it that is inspired and happy and loves to work and is human-centered and, good focused. And so there's no intention of moving anything out or anything like that. And as far as acquisition goes, we're just going to build the best product we can and try and help as many people as we possibly can. And I think that good things will follow.
I think that's really cool. So Reyn, what are your future growth plans for the PocketChange team? I know you mentioned there were, 4 core members now. Are you guys actively expanding your team, or if anybody's interested, what kind of people are you looking for?
Yeah, for sure. So we are actually currently looking for another developer to join our founding team. We have 2 really, really stellar people. We have Apurva, who's doing our natural language processing, and John, who's doing our front end. But we really are looking for a full stack developer to kind of connect the 2 and amplify everything that we're doing. So if anyone's interested in what we're doing, the vision, the technology, the growth, whatever it is that, might attract you to PocketChange, if you do want to get in contact or just even sit down and chat, you can email me, Reyn, Reyn, at pocketchange.social, or you can just go on our website, pocketchange.social, and fill out the contact form. They both go to me. That would be great. And then also another kind of send out there for anyone that's listening is, if you're at all involved in the charity or philanthropy or impact space, I'd love to, sit down and chat, talk, take you out for coffee, kind of pick your brain about the way we do things, and see what you think. I'd really love to get into the nitty-gritty kind of technical and tactical of how we do charity selection and our beliefs around organizations. And I'd love to get as much feedback as possible.
That sounds like a really great opportunity, especially to get on the ground floor, something with so much potential.
Yeah, no, it's really, really exciting. And, like I said earlier, the team's at 22 people now. It's really, really growing. A lot of people around DU and also around the Denver community are getting really excited about what's about to happen. And so if you're interested in kind of doing something that has the potential to, I don't want to make claims that I can't back up, but I think one day I'll be able to actually back these up. If you're interested in being a part of what we believe to be, the next giant platform, the thing that makes all the other platforms better, send me an email.
Yeah, you can always leverage the Steve Jobs, John Scully. Do you want to stay here and sell sugar water? Or do you want to come with me and change the world?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I hope you're not selling sugar water, but if you are, definitely send me an email.
Love to send people your way. I think what you guys are doing is really cool. Is there anybody that you would like to recognize as helping you with the venture so far?
For sure. The first thing that I want to say, and I know a lot of people say this all the time, but they say it because it's true. We've talked a lot about me this whole interview, but this business is really not about me. It's about the people that are working on it and committing to it, and the sweat and time and just pure effort that people are putting into making this thing a reality. So I want to give a huge shout out to everyone on our team. They work much harder and with much more passion than I've ever seen. And so that's really, really incredible. And I want to make sure that they know it, and they do. But any opportunity I can give them a little shout out, I definitely will. And then I also want to give an incredible shout out to one of my dear, dear friends and close mentors. His name is Drew Lawrence. And Drew is truly an incredible person. He's helped us through a lot of the people struggles and management struggles and hiring struggles that we've gone through. So Drew is incredible. If you ever see a guy named Drew Lawrence, tall guy with a beard, go buy him a beer because he's awesome.
Reyn, it's been great having you on Colorado TechCast. I think what you're doing with PocketChange is really cool. And really loved your stories of early stage entrepreneurship, the lemonade stand, the Legos, the hoverboard, and now working on something that can truly change the world. I wish you guys the best of luck, and I look forward to hearing great things in the future.
Thanks so much, Trevor. It's been an absolute pleasure being on here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Colorado TechCast. To hear more episodes of this program, visit our website at coloradotechcast.com. There you'll find everything you need to know to subscribe to the show. We're also on Twitter at COTechcast and love hearing your comments, so keep them coming. I'm Trapper Little, and I'll talk with you soon on the next episode of Colorado TechCast.